Hey, this is Joe Gilder from HomeStudioCorner.com. I want to talk about pre- and post-fader plugins in Studio One. If you notice on the mix bus over here, or you'll hear that referred to as the master fader or the main output, you'll notice it's different from all the other tracks in the session. While they all have inserts on the top, the mix bus has a post section here, whereas all the other channels have a send section. What does that have to do with? Well, it has to do with pre-fader and post-fader plugins. If you've never heard that term before, in the mixing board world, an analog board, you'll have things that are pre-fader and post-fader. Specifically, sends is a common place where you'll hear that term. And that means if I move the fader, for example, on, let's go to where there's a compressor. Let's say this drum bus here. If I move this fader, will it change the amount of signal feeding into this compressor on this channel? The answer is no, because all of these inserts are pre-fader. That means the signal hits this stuff before it goes to the volume fader. So you can watch, if I hit play and I turn this volume all the way down, there's no signal coming through here on the drums, but you can see there's still signal hitting the compressor, okay? That's typically how you're going to want it to work, right? You don't want to set up the perfect compressor setting, and then when you move your volume of that track, it changes because you've changed how much signal's going into the compressor. That's not a good thing. So that's why most tracks are pre-fader, okay? Now over here on the mix bus, or on your master fader, you've got the same pre-fader sends, which is where I do probably 95% of my processing on my mix bus. It behaves just like any other plugin, but you've also got this post fader section. This is a place where when you turn the signal down, it turns the signal down feeding this particular spot, right? So the only real place the reason I use this section, and you may never use it, is mainly for dither. I'll sometimes put metering plugins here and things like that. But if there's something like dither that I want to be present across the mix bus, even if I'm doing a nice fade out at the end, I'd like that to happen after the fader. Meaning, the dither creates noise which helps you bounce from 24-bit down to 16-bit, for example. But if you put the dither on a pre-fader insert, then when I turn this down at the end of the song, I've got a nice fade going, it actually turns down the dither. And you want dither to be present and consistent at all times. So you want that to be post-fader. So as I turn this down, the dither is happening after the fader, and it remains at the exact same volume. So that's kind of a moot point because Studio One has the option, and I think I've shown you this before, under Preferences, under Advanced, I believe, where it will actually add dithering for audio file export. So it'll do the dithering for you. If you don't know what dithering is, go to HomeStudioCorner.com and search for dithering or intro to dither. I'll explain that a little more. But there are, if you have other types of plugins that you want to be there and not to be affected by moving the master fader volume, this is where you stick them, okay? So it's more of just an exercise in what this is, in case you've always wondered, why does that say post right there? That's why. And you can add plugins there and anything else just like you can up here. It just may behave differently if you've got things happening on your volume master fader and it's actually moving up and down. Okay? That's it. Thanks for watching. See ya.